future, talk radio will actually educate, inspire, and make you think. The future is now. Topics and music that affect your life from Universal Broadcasting Network. Tune in at ubnradio.com.
She's passionate about telling stories of amazing women who are rocking the world and empowering women to live, love, and thrive. Here's your host, Catherine Gray.
Thank you, and welcome to Live, Love, Thrive, Women's Empowerment Hour, brought to you by 360karma.com. We have two amazing women on today. First up, we're going to have Robin Smalley, who is co-founder and director of an incredible organization called M2M.org, and we'll be telling you about that. And later in the show, we're going to have Claire Fordham, who is a British writer and producer. So stay tuned for that, but right now, please meet Robin Smalley.
Catherine, thanks so much for having me here today.
Oh, you bet, you bet. Every week I have like the best job in the world because I get to meet amazing women that are doing just extraordinary work in the world. And I am excited to talk about your journey to what you're doing today that's making such a big difference in the world. And so we're going to talk about M2M.org. But first I want to kind of talk about your path to what brought you to creating this nonprofit that is helping to eradicate pediatric AIDS in the world. And so with that important mission, I'm sure everybody wants to know, how did you end up doing such a phenomenal thing? So you started your life in New York.
I did.
Yes, right?
I did.
You were born.
Doesn't everybody in LA start their life in New York?
It seems like it, doesn't it? But you grew up in the Bronx, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think, and it sounds like you grew up in a tenement with your mom and your grandparents. So I take it was some humble beginnings.
It was some humble beginnings, yeah. If you had, told me, and certainly my family, that, X number of years later, I'm not going to say how many, but X number of years later, I would have, uprooted my family and moved them to South Africa to start an AIDS organization. I think we all would have thought you were on crack.
Right. Yeah, it's so funny, and young people listening too, or even if we're in midlife, we never know really what is around the corner.
That's right.
And what's going to transpire to take us to what it is that's our calling. And so yours is an amazing journey.
It's so true. I talk to college groups often, and one of the things I always say is, don't be so focused on where you think you're going, because chances are that's not where you're going. Man plans, God laughs.
Yeah.
And you'll miss all the exciting opportunities along the way. I mean, I always intended to be in television, and I was, but life takes you in different directions.
Right. So let's first talk about that, because I know you come from a very creative family. Your mom was a singer.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yes, nightclub singer.
Right. And then she ended up marrying a Broadway performer, right?
Mm-hmm.
So your life was all around theater and culture and traveling with her around the country, right?
I was. We were a bit of the wandering Jews when we were little. When I was little, and she had many of those early girl groups in the late 50s, early 60s, the Allison sisters, the Charmaniers, and so I did. I had my third birthday on a cruise ship to Germany, and my fourth birthday in Brazil, and my fifth birthday in France, and so we were always on the road. And then when she married my stepfather, some of my best memories are sitting behind stage, on Broadway, or spending summers traveling in summer stock.
Oh, fun.
Yeah.
It sounded like an exciting childhood.
It was different. I went to 12 schools in 12 years.
Wow.
It was different.
So it was challenging.
It was challenging. Yeah. Children of divorced parents always have a certain amount of challenges.
Sure. And so it was welcoming to have a stepfather then at that point?
I had a wonderful stepfather, and later on a wonderful stepmother. So I'm very lucky.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Is that where you got the travel bug, since you traveled at an early age?
Probably. I look at my daughter now and say, God, where's her fearless gene? And I think my mother always used to say to me, wait till you have children, you'll see what you're putting me through. I mean, I went to Europe for the first time by myself when I was 14.
Wow.
So, I just, I've always
been a rebel.
I've always, I don't know about a rebel, but certainly always had a real hunger to experience different cultures.
Right. I wonder if that. So, do you think it comes from your mom? I mean, because your mom was
No,
traveling to all these places.
Yeah, but at heart, she was a real, if
Homebody?
she had a choice, she would have been a homebody.
How interesting that she ended up traveling all over the world
because
singing.
she loved to sing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and some people, that's true. If it's something that you love so much, you'll do it whatever opportunity
That's
you
right.
have, right? Yeah.
That's right. And it was her one chance
Yeah.
to get out of the Bronx. I mean, when she was little, she started the way she would earn money is in beauty pageants, and she was we have a big bowl still in my kitchen, a big silver bowl because she was the first Jewish homecoming queen of UPenn.
Oh my
And then she
gosh,
went on
that's
the beauty
cool.
circuit, and then the singing, and that's that was what got her out of a very impoverished childhood.
Wow, that's incredible. So she was determined to get out of there, and then that was a great vehicle.
That's right.
Wow, that's a really cool story. So you obviously had a very strong role model.
I did.
Yeah.
I
Because
did.
obviously a very strong woman. So then you ended up in L.A. in the entertainment business and television. Tell me a little bit about how that unfolded.
Well, I always thought I would be in broadcast journalism. My feeling is television was the best medium to affect social change, And so when I went into television, it wasn't so much for the entertainment value as that I wanted to do stories that I thought would impact people. And I got into what was at that time called reality television, which is very different than it is now. And it was great. And I was actually one of the first women in the Directors Guild, and which was kind of scary at the beginning. But, I went for years. It was fun, and I did get to travel a lot, and certainly the money was good. But then I had children of my own, and TV started, in my opinion, losing some of the social benefits. And I was working 24/7 and, wasn't around my young babies. My husband worked at home, and I'd get the phone call about the first steps and the first words. And I thought, this isn't why I had children. And the work, while the money was good, you can't go on doing work that the primary benefit is good health insurance.
Right, right. No, you have to do something to feed your soul.
You have to do something to feed your soul,
Yeah.
exactly. And what had happened was, while I had discovered an amazing organization called Streetlights out of People magazine. My friend Dorothy, who started Streetlights, was listed as one of the angels, People magazine angels, and I was on a hiatus, as I frequently was from different shows, and I called her up and said, look, I've got 3 weeks, and can I come and volunteer? And she said, sure. And that started a whole shift for me. And I would, every time I was on sabbatical or hiatus from my show, I would go and volunteer. And I ended up joining their board and taught myself how to fundraise and grant write and realized that was the passion.
And tell us what Streetlights does.
Streetlights is
wonderful.
Really
cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. It trains inner city young people who may have been incarcerated, who may be welfare mothers, to work in the entertainment industry as production assistants.
I love
and
that.
It was born out of her realization after the big LA riots, how unintegrated. We're a company town here in Los Angeles, and yet we were completely white. And she wanted to do something about that, and she started Streetlights, and it's a fantastic organization. And I credit Dorothy with my interest and exposure to nonprofit work.
Right.
So when I decided to get out of television, I knew that was what I wanted to do. But I was a TV director and writer, and I thought, what can I have to offer? So, I went knocking on doors to all the nonprofits in town and said, look, I can write, I can produce, And so I developed some clients, one of whom was called Advocates for Youth, based in D.C., and they had a project called the Media Project, and I ended up doing some work for them, and then being offered the executive director spot, which I did for 7 years before Mothers to Mothers happened.
Wow, and that was a nonprofit.
And that was a nonprofit.
Yeah.
And it was a great midpoint because it was working with a population I knew, with TV writers and producers, but it was in the area of adolescent reproductive health and sexuality. So I would help them create storylines that had a social benefit for around reproductive health and family planning.
Right. Oh, wow. And so So back up. So the shows that you were working on, I know you said like you like to do like segments on like better parenting or helping laws for child abuse and things like that. And you worked on which shows did you do these segments with?
Oh gosh, there were so many. I started out doing a show called The Home Show, and then went to Our Magazine, and then separately for years directed Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous, which doesn't have any social benefit, but was great fun.
Yeah, it sounds like fun.
It was really fun and really fun travel.
I used to love that show.
Yeah, so did I. It was a lot of fun, and until I had children.
Yeah.
And then I didn't want to travel. And Robin Leach was very good about that. But anyway, that's another story. Shows, I did pilots on health. I did all kinds of stuff.
Right.
Lisa, I produced Lisa, which was a wonderful show. Lisa Gibbons' show for a long time.
Yes, it was. Yeah. And so. You said you were one of the first in the Directors Guild, one of the first women. That's really interesting and cool. There still seem like, what is the percentage of women in the Directors Guild today? Because all the women directors I talk to say we have a long way to go with having more female directors in Hollywood.
Yeah, I actually have no idea because I'm been out of the business now so long. But when I do go to meetings, certainly it's them. There's actually a lot of women. They're just not in the higher roles.
Right.
So there's a lot of women PAs, ADs in the television side. But in terms of dramatic and feature directors, that's where the pyramid gets a lot
room to
smaller.
grow. Room to grow. We got to work on that. But that's great that you were trailblazing there. So I know what really took you into your next phase of nonprofit. And life always feels like a puzzle, doesn't it? It's so interesting that you had gotten this work that you were doing in nonprofit, not knowing where it was going to lead to or what was ahead of you. Like you said, we think we're planning our life and we never know what comes ahead. Yeah. So I'd like you to discuss some of the some of the adversities that you had to overcome that actually shifted you into the work that you're doing now.
Yes.
We talked about some of those losses and whatnot.
Yeah, I had a few, really difficult years where my stepfather had a terrible illness and was in the hospital for a year, and he passed away. And then shortly after that, I had breast cancer. And then shortly after that, my mother very suddenly, tragically died very young. And then I got a call that my best friend in the world, Karen Besser, had gone in for some minor arthroscopic shoulder surgery. She lived in Chicago and didn't come out of anesthesia. And one of her brothers was with her and called me immediately, and I got on a plane and flew to Chicago, and as did her older brother, Mitch, who was living in South Africa at the time, and who I was very close to. And Mitch and I sat bedside while Karen was in a coma for 2 weeks. And I've always been a very positive person and, just pull up your bootstraps and get on with it and stop feeling sorry for yourself. But then Karen passed away.
Oh, my.
And Karen had been the one to sort of get me through everything. She'd flown out and gotten me through my mother's death, and she'd flown out when I had cancer and went with me to the doctor and sat with me during radiation. And, and when she was gone, I was just like, I'm done.
Almost like a sister.
She was like a sister.
Yeah.
Because I don't have a sister.
Yeah.
And, I just pulled up the covers and I was like, I'm done. And Mitch, who is an obstetrician, an American obstetrician, but had been living in Cape Town, and had told me about this idea he had while we were sitting with Karen, that at the time he was calling mothers to be. And Mitch called and said, why don't you come to Cape Town and see what I'm doing? And I said, well, that's ridiculous. It's Africa. Who goes to Africa? Right? And my husband said, who was very concerned about my emotional state, was like, go. So I did. I got on a plane and I went to visit Mitch. And that morning, I'll never forget, my flight landed about 6 a.m. and he was still a practicing obstetrician. And I went on rounds with him. And he specialized in HIV-positive pregnant women. And I fell head over heels in love with the women that I met who had nothing, who lived in shacks with no water, no electricity, were HIV positive, were pregnant, were often alone, and had so much courage and so much spirit and so much life and, just could conquer the world. And it was like, for me, a bucket of cold water. And, it was just get over yourself, Robin. I don't know if I can say the S word on the air, but that happens.
Yeah.
And I was really inspired by the women that I met that day. And I got back to Mitch's house that evening and called my husband, Jeff, and said, I really want to do this. We have to move to Cape Town. And within 6 weeks, we had picked up the kids and the dogs in the house and had moved to Cape Town.
Wow. There's not too many guys that would have done that.
No, he's quite exceptional.
He's special.
Yes, he's very special.
Oh my gosh, that is an amazing story.
Yeah.
And, it just goes to show the universe sends you messages and you listen or you don't. And the cool thing is you listen because, your first reaction was, what are you, crazy? I'm not moving there. But you did it. And you followed your instinct, and
it was so easy, Catherine.
Yeah,
That's
just fell into place.
And I got to tell you, and I talk about this a lot. That it's often the thing that gets you past tragedy and hardship is doing for other people.
Absolutely, that's it.
Totally felt that, this Mothers to Mothers, and that's where the M2M comes from, but it's really called Mothers to Mothers. The model and the concept of women helping other women, of peer mentorship is so powerful in so many areas. And I just, when I got back, my youngest daughter, Sophie, who was only 12 at the time, was devastated by the idea of moving to Africa. My eldest was excited. My youngest was devastated. She was going to 5th grade. She was going to be a senior in her elementary school. She had all of her friends, and
so this wasn't easy.
It wasn't. It wasn't easy for her.
Right.
And we were having a lot of tears. And finally, at one point, she and I were laying in bed, and she's crying, and I'm crying, and I said, Sophie, if it's this traumatic for you, we won't go. It's just, I can't. She was acting like I was pulling out her fingernails, and she was. It was hard for her. And she said, and she turned to me in bed, and she said, well, tell me, Mommy, why is it so important to you that we go there? And I said, because there are 1,500 babies being born every single day with AIDS, with HIV in sub-Saharan Africa, and it's completely unnecessary.
Wow.
And I think that, we can do something about that and save all of these babies. And she looked at me through her tears and she said, well, I guess that's more important than my 5th grade.
Oh my gosh, wow.
And
that's
she was
an
amazing.
evolved child.
Well, when you look at something like this, at the injustice of it, and that's what had affected me.
I know you're going to make me cry.
but it was just so wrong. Where you live shouldn't determine if you live.
And it just goes to show, Robin, how a person can make such a difference. I mean, you and your family picked up, moved there, created this. Now it's been around 15 years.
15 years. We're celebrating our 15th
And you've
birthday.
reached over 1 million people that you've helped.
1.5 million.
1.5 million.
And we will reach
in 9
we will
countries.
Reach in 9 countries, and we'll reach 865,000 more this year.
Yeah.
And what's so
I have
exciting,
goosebumps. And I know it takes a village.
It
but
does
it
take-
takes
it takes
someone
a
to
woman.
spearhead that village. That's right.
It takes a lot of women.
Yes,
We have
yes.
1,800 mentor mothers now employed by Mothers to Mothers.
Wow.
And just to explain to you and your audience what this is.
What are the 1,800 mentor mothers? What is that?
It's such a simple. What used to happen before Mothers to Mothers is because the systems in Africa are so broken and there are so few doctors and nurses run everything and they're overworked and they're overstressed and they're underpaid.
Same in America.
No.
Well, yeah.
Not
More
the
so
same
there.
in America.
Yeah.
And that's the difference. People say same in America. A country like Mozambique has 3 doctors and 21 nurses for every 100,000 people.
Oh my gosh.
That's
overworked.
That yes.
Yeah.
And so that's why people say, well, we have problems here. It's like it's not the same. We have so many safety nets. There's no safety nets there. And so
like you've said, lives matter everywhere.
Lives matter
and
everywhere.
that is the message. Like we have to care about people all over the world.
That's right. If we want to worry about terrorism starts in places where people have no hope and no future.
Right.
And when you are watching your children die for no reason, and we've eradicated pediatric AIDS here in the U.S. in the developing world, yet we still, now when we started it was 1,500 a day. We're down to 300 a day now. 300 too many, but it's huge progress. And we can end we can have an HIV-free generation. within our generation.
Right.
This isn't something like way down the line this is going to
Right,
happen. This is
right.
something that we can do. This is the legacy we can leave our children.
Right. So what do these mentors do? Yeah.
So before Mothers to Mothers, women would come in pregnant for their first prenatal visit.
Mm-hmm.
When they'd get an HIV positive diagnosis, there would be nobody there to tell them in their language that there was medication that could prevent the transmission of HIV from themselves to their children.
Right.
And how to have an HIV negative baby and how to keep that baby negative through breastfeeding and all of that. And so they, even though there was medicine available, they would go home to die. And the stigma was so severe, they'd be afraid to disclose to their partner, to their mothers, to anyone. And governments were throwing millions of dollars into medical intervention that no one was taking advantage of. So what we do is we take newly delivered mothers who are HIV positive, we put them through a rigorous training, we employ them, which is key because people did not employ women. They were considered the volunteer workforce of Africa. But by empowering them and professionalizing them and employing them, we create what we call mentor mothers, so that when that young woman comes in and gets this potentially devastating diagnosis, immediately a mentor mother is there to hold her hand, to put her arms around her, to say, you're not alone. My baby was born negative and I'm HIV positive too, and we're going to get through this together.
Wow, that is so awesome.
And it's such a powerful model. And they're brought into the Mothers to Mothers room where they're surrounded by a sisterhood of women just like her. And their mentor mother is her advocate during pregnancy, during labor, and beyond. And now we are in addition to our 15th year, we're celebrating our second year where we have eradicated AIDS pediatric AIDS among all the children that are served through Mothers to Mothers. We have a 2.1 transmission rate among the women served by Mothers to Mothers, and that's considered by the UN and the Global Health Organization as eradication.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
And, I always say people are led into their calling by adversity, and look at all those adverse things that you went through. But really, you're in honor and legacy of your best friend, Karen.
That's right.
Look at the great work you're doing. I mean, she must just be smiling down.
I think she made it all happen. She
Oh,
and my
totally.
mom, who are really
Yeah.
close. And I have to say, but this is something we can all do. And I know if we've run out of time, I want to be able to tell everybody that as part of our 15th birthday, we are trying to plan the biggest birthday in the world. And we're calling it Every Child Deserves a Birthday. And I'm hoping that everybody gets on board by donating their birthday or their children's birthday this year. So to honor your health and your life by saving another one. And it's super easy. And if they go on our website, m2m.org, they can find out how to donate your birthday. I did mine this year.
Yes.
And I donated my 60th birthday, and we raised $18,000,
Oh my
which was
gosh, that is
unbelievable.
amazing.
Just by saying, I don't need any more stuff.
Yeah, I don't need any
my
more
baby
gifts.
doesn't need any more
Yeah.
stuff. Give $15 in honor of the 15th anniversary. In my case, it was 60 in honor
Yeah.
of my 60th.
I love
and,
that.
And it takes so little, I mean,
Yeah, people are always looking for a way to
We're-
make a difference.
Exactly.
Here's a great opportunity.
And we're not even saying write a check.
Yeah,
We're saying
yeah.
donate your birthday and get all your friends and
Yeah.
family to, instead of buying a gift, donate to Mothers, and know that there's a baby out there that your
you're
birthday
saving.
saved that could be the next Mandela or the next doctor or the
Right.
next peacemaker. And, really make your birthday count.
I love that. That's great, Robin. Thank you for sharing. I hope people go to m2m.org and just keep doing the amazing work you're doing.
Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Catherine. Thanks to everybody.
And we'll be right back with Claire Fordham. Stay tuned.
The Live, Love, Thrive radio show is produced by 360karma.com. Are you a 360 Karma woman? If so, spread the word. Be sure to follow us on social media at 360 Karma Women on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Please like us and share us with family and friends. This is the year of the woman, and we are stronger together. The Live, Love, Thrive program is brought to you in part by Honda of downtown Los Angeles, supporting the equality and empowerment of women.
And we are back with Claire Fordham.
Hi,
How are you?
Very well, thank
It's
you.
good to have a Brit on the show. Cheerio.
bring a bit of class to the show.
Oh no, did it
Not that
need
you
it?
need it. No, that came out wrong. Oh my God, it started off terribly.
So we were just at the Live, Love, Thrive conference,
were.
you and I. You wrote a beautiful article, thank you, in the
my
Huff
pleasure. It
Post.
was
I hope
wonderful.
everybody got to see it. And I know you write often for the Huffington Post.
I do.
Yeah.
I do. It's a fantastic platform, and to be able to write about things and people who inspire me, you being one. Oh my goodness,
Thank
Robin,
you.
who was just on. I would absolutely want to write about her and tell
Isn't that an amazing story?
Extraordinary, and I
Yeah.
feel a bit of a fraud being here actually. But it was.
There are so many incredible women doing extraordinary work in the world
Yes.
that that's why we have so many amazing guests. But it's so important that we have women like you that write about them.
Right, thank
and
you.
your blogs and your books are, amazing. So yeah, I mean, everybody has a gift, and Claire, your gift is writing. That's for
Thank
sure.
you. And I'm
I wish
trying
I had
to-
that gift.
Well, no, thank goodness you don't. There's enough writers out there already. But I do feel inspired and moved to try and help worthy causes, incredible people, by writing about them and telling their story.
Right, like I do about the radio show and the
Yes,
conference,
yes.
and so the conference.
Not sure how I managed to get on, but I'm very happy to be here.
because you're doing that great work.
Thank you.
So the conference, let's just chat about that a
Yes.
little bit. I know you wrote up that you really enjoyed our speakers, and
Everything about it.
we rolled out our web series about amazing women as well, and then we had some awards that we gave out, and I know one of them is someone that you know, Lisa Vanderpump. I think a lot of people were surprised to know what an incredibly giving woman she is. I mean, they see her on her reality TV shows and whatnot, and I think we all saw a whole different side of her at the Live, Love, Thrive conference because she talked about her Vanderpump Dog Foundation.
Yeah.
And how she helps to keep dogs from being euthanized and whatnot. And I just think that
and
that's wonderful
eaten.
work. Yeah.
Yes. No,
Yeah.
she does do a lot of good work. I knew her 15 years ago when she was just rich and not famous. And I remember being on her yacht in the south of France and thinking how the other half live.
Yeah.
Very nice indeed. And then she came here and, of course, has made a massive name for herself for being famous. But
Right.
she does do very worthy work, and she supports the LGBT
LGBT
I should have rehearsed it.
community.
Yes, and animal activist, of course, as
Yes.
well as being famous.
Yes. So that was a highlight of this show, and then the conference, and then I really loved our ending with we showcased the most amazing women of the past century,
Yes.
from Rosa Parks to Ruth Bader Ginsburg,
Yes.
and of
let's
course
hope
we
she
ended
keeps
on.
going. We need her to keep going.
I know, keep going, Ruth.
4 more years, please, love.
And then we ended on Hillary Clinton with a beautiful
Yeah.
quote from her about perseverance.
Yes.
And everybody cheered and they were dancing. And Pamela Stanley was singing, "We Are Family."
Yes,
I got
and
all
we
my
were.
sisters with me.
And after such a
we needed it.
an
We needed it.
awful a week when many of us were thinking about never getting up again, let alone moving to
Because of the
Canada.
election,
Yes,
yeah.
it was. Felt kicked
I know
in
you
the
were like,
teeth.
should I go? Shouldn't I go? But
yes, because I
yeah.
just did. But
Yeah.
seriously, to be with a community of like-minded people,
Right.
good, honourable people, and it really motivated me. I really took a lot away from that conference, and
I'm
I
so
will
glad.
absolutely be going next year. Every speaker was inspiring. I do, as I say, feel a bit of a fraud when you see what the challenges people go through.
It is something, our Live, Life, Thrive book, webisodes,
Yeah.
our show, everybody, it's always about women who have overcome adversity and are
Yes.
doing triumphant
Yeah.
things in the world. But the thing is we've all overcome adversity. So everybody has their stories and nobody knows each other's backstories, which I
No,
always
that's
find really
true.
interesting. You meet someone at face value
Yes.
and you don't know what they've been through. I mean, I know you were born in England and
Yes.
you went through a divorce. I can imagine,
Yeah.
people out there, they've been through a
Yeah.
divorce, that's a tough thing, right?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
And so, that's a challenge. I mean, when I asked you about your challenges, I know you told me it was that you didn't have a dishwasher. But I knew there were so bigger ones than that. But
Yes, well,
that's a pretty big one,
and
though.
it is. Trust me, it is. Especially when you cook a lot, like I do. And I just had my family visiting from Fiji. My son lives in Fiji. He went there for
That's
5
really
days and never
cool.
came back. He's happily married with 2 beautiful children.
Fiji's
my
so
grandchildren,
beautiful, huh?
And my daughter's in London, so I'm smack bang in the middle of them. So we were all
Right.
reunited. last
It's
month,
funny,
actually.
London, Fiji, and you think you're in the middle of them? Okay.
Yeah, I am.
Yeah,
I'm very,
yeah.
very, very lucky. But yes, and I like when I was listening to Robin and feeling so unworthy to be here. But you know, that choice of the word challenge,
Yeah.
and how the language that we choose. I mean, I've not had any.
It's varying degrees of it.
Yes, and
Absolutely.
challenges. You know, when I was here, my husband is British. We're old flames reconnected, and when he moved here, you know, we didn't have our own base as such, and I was homeless for a year, not living in a cardboard box.
Yeah.
Homeless. In
Yeah.
fact, it was extraordinary luxury, but we stayed in 25 different places.
Oh my gosh.
Before, and some of them 2 or 3
That kind of
times.
sounds exciting, actually.
Well, it wasn't. I wouldn't say it was exciting,
Yeah.
but I know how lucky I was. We were
Right.
staying in fabulous places when
Yeah.
people were going on vacation or they wanted pets looking.
yeah,
after.
you always say writing is a tough way to make a living,
Oh,
but
yeah,
you
people
kind of
say-
lived an extraordinary life, Claire.
I have. I know how lucky I am. You know, people say, "What do you do?" I say, "I work in non-profit. I'm a writer."
Yeah.
You know, that's the reality. Unless you're J.K. Rowling, and
Yeah.
as we know, she struggled. There's no money to be made from
Yeah.
it unless you're her or a few others. But I am blessed. I do live a charmed life on so many levels, and I try and give
Just living
back
here in
my own way.
America, we have a charmed life. Yeah.
Absolutely. Hearing Robin, oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
Yeah.
When I post this on social media later, I would say you can fast forward to my bit. I'm on this time, but what she's doing. There are so many extraordinary, regular people doing extraordinary work
Amazing
and making the
things.
world a better place.
Right.
But she was,
And a good
extraordinary.
majority are women, which makes it easy
Yes.
for me to fill the show with
Yes.
these incredible people.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I feel so lucky to know and work with so many extraordinary women, not least yourself, doing great stuff.
Thank you. So you've written a couple of books, and a lot of people, they did research, and it showed that people actually think more highly of authors than they do of actually doctors. And
Really?
yes,
Okay, yes.
And I think the reason, I mean, I'm just guessing, is because everybody has a book in them, and they
Right.
wish they could write it, they want to write it. So if somebody has written it,
Yeah.
they're
Yes.
like, oh wow, she's written books. And so you've written 2 books.
I've written 2 books
And-
under my
and
name. I do
ghostwrite it.
ghostwriting as well, help other
Right.
people tell their story, and I write articles.
Yeah.
And I do producing as well. If you have to have your finger in a lot of pies, I think.
Yeah. And so your
creative pies.
background is in
Journalism, yeah.
Journalism.
I started off writing for my local evening paper, then national newspapers, and then television news.
Right,
So it was-
BBC and
yeah,
Sky
on-
News.
On
Yeah.
paper, I look extremely successful. And
You are. You got to
thank
give
you.
yourself
I
a
do. No, I do
kudos.
feel.
Yeah.
I feel successful because I'm blessed in so many ways.
Yes.
Not least because my children are happy and healthy and thriving.
And I always say, abundance comes in many forms.
Yes.
And if you have a great family, great
Yes.
partner, I know you have a
Yes,
great
I do.
sister, you have a lot of love
Yes.
and joy in your
Yes.
life. You do what you love. You write.
Exactly.
And that's about as abundant as
It is.
anyone needs to
and then
be.
we must all try and give back. So I have a couple
Absolutely.
of my own, charities that I try and help. I wish I was more. In fact, I was thinking I would love to be able to. When you write on Huffington Post, you have to do a description. So I'm a writer, author,
Yeah.
producer. I do
And how did
producing.
you get to
But
write
I want
for
to add-
HuffPost?
I want to. I met Ariana Huffington. At
Oh
an event,
wow!
and she said,
you
must
just
write for me,
I met
darling."
Ariana
And she
Huffington
said,
like
"Here's
it's
my
no
email,"
big
and it
deal.
started there. And then I got in fairly at the beginning. It's much harder. To get in there.
Yeah, no, it's a big deal to write for HuffPost. I
Yes,
applaud
thank
you for
yes,
that.
and it's smoke and mirrors because you
Yeah.
don't get paid for writing
Yeah.
for them.
No.
But it's very hard to get in, and
Right.
also
Gives you a
I
lot of credibility.
Yes, for my other writing, and also that I sell books. If I write something and people have been amused, say, or interested, then I usually sell a few books because there's links to my books at the end.
Yeah, that's cool. And what was Ariana like?
Oh, she's extraordinary. I went to an event, and she's a vanguard. I mean, apart from building that
totally.
successful business, I first heard of her when she was the president of the Oxford Union at Oxford University, which is a huge achievement for anybody, let alone an immigrant woman.
Yes.
But that thick accent she's got, she hasn't held her back. And
Yeah.
she is so smart and
Yeah.
so inspiring.
Yeah, definite
She's
trailblazer.
yes, totally and utterly.
Yeah, and I heard like when she launched her HuffPost, that she was even like, "Is this going to work?"
Yeah.
Like anybody does when they launch
Yes.
something new,
Yeah.
But
And yes, it
it's
did.
just it's amazing.
Oh.
Everybody
And then
loves
she
it.
cashed
Yeah.
out
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Now she's doing something else called Thrive.
Yes, I heard that.
She stole that from you.
Yeah. I think when things are of their time, people are thinking the same ideas at
Yeah.
the same time. So, yeah, it's
That's
just
right.
like when I launched 360 Karma Women, and I said, we are stronger together. And
Yes.
then, of course, Hillary came
Yeah.
out with that. And I was like, wait
She
a
stole
minute.
it again.
But really, it just means we're all aligned in our
Yes.
thinking.
Well, I
Yeah.
think I mentioned to you that my latest book, which is I wrote for my granddaughter. I know it's hard to believe. I know that I'm a grandmother. And her name is Mia Rose. I've called it Life Lessons for Mia Rose.
Yes.
And the subhead is An Irreverent Guide to Living and Loving Well. So I wanted to make it clear that I'm irreverent. I cover all sorts of
Gee, no one
subjects.
would have ever guessed that.
But I did the subhead was going to be how to live, love, and thrive. But I thought I wanted
Yes,
to make
you
it.
told me
Yeah, I
that.
wanted to make it clear that
Yeah.
it was irreverent because I don't want people to buy it and be shocked.
Right. So maybe I should have called it the Irreverent
Yes.
Live, Love, Thrive Conference.
No, because there's no cursing there. There's no cursing.
Okay, I'll scrap that. But your latest book, the Lessons of Mia Rose,
Life Lessons for Mia Rose,
Lessons
yeah.
of Mia Rose, for your granddaughter, like what are some of the lessons that you recommend to her? I'd love to hear this.
Well, what I've done it. Yes, there's lessons, but there's also it's semi-autobiographical because I wanted her to know me.
Yes.
Because a lot of us don't know our parents and grandparents.
It's so true.
We really don't.
Yeah, I remember doing a video interview, which I always recommend everybody do with their parents before they lose
Yes,
them.
yeah.
And I remember saying to my dad, "Hey, you never told me this or that," and he
That's
was like,
right.
"Well, you never asked." You
Yeah.
know, so it's really interesting when you interview your parents, the things they'll tell you that they never told you otherwise, because it's different than
It
day-to-day
is,
conversation
it is.
and interview.
So that's why I've called it irreverent, because some people might think I've overshared, as indeed might she. But I talk about sex. It's a very short chapter, you'll be pleased to know, because my children and grandchildren are still alive. And I can imagine my son going, "Oh, no." But I do talk about sex and talk about how, protection, use a condom. And I've got lessons at the end. Use a condom. These
Yes.
things are important.
Yeah.
I talk about not politics, but health.
Yeah.
And what else do I talk about? Death and dying.
Yeah.
I talk about that. I talk about religion because my background is journalism. I want her to know how I feel about it.
Right.
But I also, and how important it is to know about all religions. So I've researched it and I had it checked by a professor of religious studies. I've gone through all the major religions, talking about them, and funnily enough, they're all the same, except they've got a different prophet at the
Right,
top.
exactly.
But it's all about loving kindness and forgiveness,
Isn't it?
So there's that, and obviously whatever she wishes to pursue, if at all, a religion, then I would love her unconditionally. But it's important to know what everyone else is thinking.
What all the options are and
the
what they're thinking,
options
and
are,
respect them all.
And I've got recipes at the end, favorite family recipes. It's not all about
Wow,
cooking,
there's
but
a
lots of
stretch
things.
from all the religions to the
everything.
recipes.
Yes,
I love
health,
it.
looking good, feeling good. I should have read it before I came in, shouldn't I? But it covers every important subject that.
Right.
Relationships. I talk about my relationship with her grandfather and how that didn't work out. And love. I talk about love and marriage, even though nobody gets married these days.
Yeah.
I've talked about everything, but telling her from my experience.
Right.
I talk about money. I talk about living consciously and being of service.
So the other book you wrote, okay.
Plus
do you want
One.
her to read that too? It's called Plus One, A Year in the Life of a Hollywood Nobody.
Well, first of all, the second book I wrote for her 16th birthday.
Yes.
Thinking that she'd read it then. She's 5 now.
Yeah.
But she could read that, because that's a memoir, which is about the time when I moved here when my children grew up
Right.
and left home. And I came here for it. To
Is
live
that
with
the way?
Julia.
Is it okay? So you came here to live with your
For a
sister,
year.
who is a singer, well-known singer,
yeah,
Julia
and I
Fordham.
went everywhere as her plus one.
Right.
So the unnamed guest. It's a Cinderella story, fish out of water story, and it was actually, and it's exaggerated because you got to be funny. So there's only if it's tragic, and I'm her personal slave basically for a year. But travelled a lot, had the most wonderful time. We're very close. And in fact, we lived together now.
So was this after your divorce you moved here?
Yes. Oh, no, I was divorced when my kids were 4 and 2.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, my son's 37. He's the same age as me. And my daughter's 35. And they were 4 and 2.
Yeah.
And
So what brought you to LA?
because Julia was here.
Oh, I see.
And I'd visited before, and they'd left home, and I came for a year as a reward for bringing up 2 children. Because I was a journalist and looked successful on paper, I was able to get a visa for 5 years, and I just loved it so much.
Right.
And I obviously would go back regularly to see my children. They would come here, and my mum and dad were still alive. We lost dad last year, but mum is still there, so I go back a lot. Yeah.
So you wrote this book, Plus One.
A Year in the Life of a Hollywood Nobody.
Right.
Very amusing.
It sounds amusing. I'm sure
so.
it is. Because you came to LA, you're with your sister who's a celebrity singer, and you're traveling around with her, and you're her plus one.
Yeah.
And so this is all the things that happened along the way. I can only imagine.
And and what happened was, so I moved here looking forward to this year, and she went away to Fiji, actually, where my son is now.
Yeah.
And she found a starving dog, a puppy, that looked more like a rat with no hair and infested with all sorts, and brought it back because there's no, what's it called, rabies here or there.
Yeah.
She was allowed to bring it in. And the vet said it won't live for very long, and B, it won't get very big. 60 odd pounds at the end. Lived till he was 12, and he became my nemesis and ruined my life. But of course, I fell in love with him, and he became part of the family. But it's all about my relationship with the dog and with her.
I think that people will relate to this title and probably picked it up because people do move to Hollywood and they feel like if they're not some huge celebrity, they do feel like a Hollywood nobody.
Yeah. Oh, and believe me, I was, and I still am.
I mean, it's a terrible term, but that is the way I think a lot of people feel, especially if they've come here to be in the entertainment industry and be an actor, actress, writer, director, whatever.
Yeah. And of course, here am I, I'm hearing Robin say she was just 60. We live in a town where 60 is not the new 50, but the new dead.
Yeah.
So talk about obstacles you have to overcome.
Right.
We've got that going against us.
Right. And it's a tough, it's especially tough city for women, especially if you're a writer or director. Yeah. We're in the minority, maybe 20%, I think, is something like that.
And the great
got
thing
a long
about
way to
not
go,
being
like every industry.
Hugely rich and successful. And by the way, I do consider myself successful on many levels, is that I can't afford Botox.
Yeah.
So that's one of the advantages.
Right. Well, when you've written books and you have your HuffPost and all these other things that you've done that are amazing, you are successful. And
I'm still in the game. I still produce. I'm still.
Oh, yeah,
pitching.
you're going strong. This is what I love, too, is that I'm always
Never give
featuring
up.
women.
Just keep going.
We're in our 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, going strong.
Yes.
And I tell you, so many of these women inspire me that, I know in my 70s, 80s, 90s, I still want to be making a difference.
And we will.
Absolutely.
Yes,
Yeah. No sitting down.
I was pitching a sitcom idea with John Wells Productions on Monday. I'm still in the game, and they like it, and they said, "Yes, I'm going to discuss this further with John." So I'm still in the game. I'm doing things like that. I'll take gigs, producer gigs in between my writing, but that's where I'm happiest.
Yeah.
And with my, being with my family, I just had 3 weeks for a month with my family. So Julia's got a house with 2 rental properties underneath, and my husband and I rent one of the rental properties. So when all my family was here, it was amazing because my Fiji family was upstairs, but they come down in Julia's part, but they come down and we'd all eat together, and I was doing all the cooking, no dishwasher, remember? And it was just magical, and I felt sort of kind of not indebted to Julia, even though she loved having them there, but we were all in her space for all this time. Now she's, a couple of weeks after that, she has gone to England where she's on tour, and I am helping look after her daughter, doing the school run, the packed lunches, and walking her next dog. She got another dog in my life. And frankly, the scales have come back up, and now she's in my debt.
I love that.
Yeah.
So she's on tour in London.
Yes.
She's very
all
popular
around
over
England,
there. Yeah. And popular here.
Yes.
And still going strong with her career.
Yes.
Yeah. So the creativity runs in the family, obviously.
Yes.
What about your mom and dad? Were they creative?
Mum more. Dad was yes, actually, in all fairness, he was a creative. He was a photographer, but an underwater photographer, which is really an industrial photographer for the Ministry of Defence. And Mum actually, in fact, he could sing too, but Mum is still a wonderful singer and does choirs, although not so much now, and the local amateur dramatic society. And she was always in productions like that, and she can do a tap dancing. And and my brother is a singer, a wonderful singer.
Oh, okay.
In fact, he and Julia were in a band together when they were 16 and 18.
Oh, cool.
And yes.
I remember you saying that you were influenced by your dad because he would watch the BBC News every night.
You are good.
Yeah.
Dad always watched the news on the BBC at 6:00.
Yeah.
Without fail, and he always took a newspaper, and that definitely impacted me in a good way, because I too inherited his thirst for knowledge and the news. Yeah. And so it's not really surprising that I then, because I could write, I started writing for my local paper, and then I worked in local television news. I did news reading and reporting. And then when I moved up to London, I was overnight news editor, producing at ITN. And
so that time you spent with Dad watching BBC and all, you got really interested in realizing that you had a
Current
draw
affairs.
For...
Yes, I think it's important to be informed.
Broadcast journalism.
We must be informed.
Speaking of that, you and I were just talking about, it was showing that 42% of people get their news from Facebook now.
Which was fake news.
Yeah. Kind of scary.
It is very scary.
42%.
I know.
That's a lot.
And that's another thing. After the election that will not be referred to again, I was distraught is too strong a word, but I was deeply shocked and stunned. And I thought, like a lot of people did, I'm going, because I have got options. I could have gone to different places. But I've decided I'm going to stay, and I'm going to be part of the change. I'm going to be part of the change, and I'm going to get more involved. I did some phone banking. Have I got time to tell you a quick funny story? This is so me. I wanted to be supportive and help Hillary, so I did phone banking, and I turned up at our local library where I'd been told we were doing phone banking, and I walk into this big room, and there's a lot of people around, and I nod to my fellow Democrats, and I sit down, and I get my book out, and my notebook and my phone and my computer, and I'm sat there and I'm looking around, and everyone else takes out a ukulele. I'd walked into the wrong room, and they were having a ukulele class, so I had to sheepishly get up and walk out again. And that's why, at the end of the day, why Hillary lost.
Because you were at the ukulele gathering?
Yeah, I went to the ukulele gathering. And
but can you play it now? No.
No, I left. The woman said, "Would you like to stay and enjoy the class?" No, thank you.
Well, they are becoming very popular.
Ukuleles, I know. But they go out of tune. They go out of tune easily.
Well, listen, I think just keep writing all that amazing stuff that you're doing. The HuffPost is a great venue for people like you that you're clever, you're witty, you're charming, and smart. And we need more journalists writing smart things about
very much.
What's going on.
I'm going to keep going because you said that.
Go, Claire.
I will.
But no, it is important. And I think that it sounds like all the things that you've been through in your life have led you to be the poignant journalist that you are.
Yes.
I think
I do. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So keep writing your humorous and meaningful books and blogs, and people can find you at clairefordham.com.
Yes.
And I know you do ghostwriting in case somebody might want to write a book.
Yes.
They have that book in them, but they're not a writer.
Yeah.
You're a great person to team up with.
Most people need help. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes. They think they don't.
And they need help writing too.
Yeah. You're on fire, Catherine.
Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you.
And we'll keep following you online, Claire Fordham.
Thank you.
I appreciate you coming on.
My pleasure.
We will be back next week with other amazing women. So tune in, and hugs and happiness. Have a great Thanksgiving. Take care.
Bye, everyone.
The Live, Love, Thrive program is brought to you in part by Honda of downtown Los Angeles, supporting the equality and empowerment of women. The Live, Love, Thrive radio show is produced by 360karma.com. Are you a 360 Karma woman? If so, spread the word. Be sure to follow us on social media at 360 Karma Women on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Please like us and share us with family and friends. This is the Year of the Woman, and we are stronger together.